Dear friends, welcome to this week's virtual Drasha. This week we have the incredible privilege of Parshas Vayakhel, and we continue along the journey, the adventure of the Mishkan. But we come to these Parshios of Vayakhel this week, Pekudei next week. We find ourselves faced with a pretty significant question. There was a lot of excitement back in Parshas Truma. Vayakhel who tells us, make for me a home on this earth. Make for me a meeting place between heaven and earth. And it's incredible and it's beautiful and there's excitement. And the Torah spares no detail. We know about every amma, every cubit. When it comes to the creation of the utensils of the Mishkan, every last finish and detail is explained. The Kohanic vestments, the Big Day Kahuna, again, no detail is spared. And then we come to the Parshas of Vayakhel and Pekudei, and the Torah once again reviews all of these details, says everything. Now granted, the distinction between Truma and Tetzaveh and Vayakhel Pekudei is an obvious one. Truma and Tetzaveh are the instructions, and Vayakhel Pekudei is the execution. But with all of that, there is still a tremendous amount, or what appears to be, redundancy. In fact, you could have compacted all the Parshas Vayakhel into one simple pasuk, Vayasu b'nei Yisrael kasher tziva Hashem. Klal Yisrael did everything that Hashem asked. Kadosh Baruch Hu told them to build the Mishkan, to build the utensils, to create the Kohanic vestments, and Klal Yisrael did it. And that would have been the end of it. But Kadosh Baruch Hu felt the need to go ahead and go through all of the details again. In other words, instructions given in Parashas Truma, and then the execution of those instructions, again, are explicitly stated once again in Parashas Vayakhel. Why? So Lubavitcher Rebbe, Zecher Tzadik Kadosh Lebracha, asks this question. He says, all the Torah, Parshas Vayakhel could have been the shortest parsha in the entire Torah. Klal Yisrael did everything that Moshe Rabbeinu said. Why the need to go ahead and once again articulate and explicitly state and review all of the details of the Mishkan? And the Rebbe says something very beautiful. He says, do you want to know why the Torah repeats all the details of the Mishkan? It's to show how much the Ribono Shel Olam loves the Mishkan. Now, why would HaKadosh Baruch Hu love the Mishkan so much? And the Rebbe goes on to say, because remember again, the Mishkan itself was the divine response to the Chet Egel, the sin of the golden calf. In the aftermath of the golden calf, there was a fundamental question. Has the relationship between Klal Yisrael and God been irreversibly damaged? Will the Ribono Shel Olam withdraw and really not set up his domicile in our midst? That was the existential question, the existential fear. And with the command, V'asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'socha, make for me a mikdash, I'll dwell within you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu answered that question. He said, no, my children, I'm staying with you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to remain here. And therefore the Rebbe says, he goes on, he says, Hine parsha zu chaviva, hi biyoser itzla Kodesh Baruch Hu. Because what the Mishkan represented was not simply a home, was not simply a structure, but the Mishkan represented the mending and the repair of the relationship between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael in the aftermath of the terribly traumatic event of the sin of the golden calf. And that coming back together, that repair of relationship, that tshuva, that spiritual reunification was so near and dear to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he feels the need to repeat the details over and over and over. So there's a Truma, and there's a Tetzaveh, and there's a Vayakhel, and there's a Pekudei. Why? Because the Mishkan represented the repairing of the relationship. The Mishkan represented the reunification between man and God. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu was not going to leave us. He was not going to forsake us. And therefore, the Ribono Shel Olam himself celebrating this almost like rejuvenated union goes through all the details again. But perhaps we could take the idea of the Rebbe a little bit in a different direction. And perhaps the reason why the Torah goes into such detail, apparently redundant detail of Parshas Vayakhel, is to teach us one simple yet profound lesson. HaKadosh Baruch Hu appreciates work. He appreciates effort. You see, there was so much that went into the creation of the Mishkan. People had to find new skill sets. Remember, again, Moshe Rabbeinu puts out a call for people who knew how to work with precious metals. Who knows how to work with precious metals? They were slaves for 210 years. They weren't artisans with fine-tuned skills. So people had to dig deep within themselves and find new skills. People had to give money. Chevra, it's difficult to give money. We work hard for our money, and it's difficult to give a little bit of money, and it's even more difficult to give a lot of money. And Klal Yisrael gave, and there was so much generosity. And every single day, and every single person, everyone participated in some way. Everyone was involved. Everyone rolled up their sleeves. Everyone worked. And do you know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu values more than anything in this world? It's effort. It's work. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows that we don't control the results. He knows that as much as I might have the greatest plan to cross as many finish lines, the greatest plans to execute on so many, to bring to fruition so many dreams, goals, aspirations, but at the end of the day, I don't control the results. HaKadosh Baruch Hu controls the results. But the one thing that I control in this world, the one thing I always control, is the amount of effort I put into any particular life initiative. You want to try a little or you want to try a lot, that's up to you. Success, a lot of times not. A lot of times success really requires a lot of factors that are beyond my sphere of influence. But effort, absolutely. Chavra, what is Parshas Vayakhel? See, Truma and Tetzaveh is instructions. The Baruch Hu is telling Moshe, Moshe is telling Klal Yisrael, everybody's getting excited, it's fantastic, beautiful. Vayakhel is the work. Vayakhel is the effort. Vayakhel is where we roll up our sleeves and we get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, this is gewaldic, this is incredible. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Jews willing to put in effort. Jews willing to work. Jews willing to put themselves out. Again, succeed, not succeed. It's in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Remember again, so many parts of the Mishkan could not be done by man. Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't figure out how to make the menorah miksha, one solid block of gold. Moshe Rabbeinu himself could not figure out how to put up the walls of the Mishkan. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to help him. Success is not in the hands of man, but effort is. And Parshas Vayakhel is all about the effort and telling us what HaKadosh Baruch Hu values more than anything in this world is effort. You know, there's a beautiful Gemara. You know, those of us who are doing Daf Yomi are like, it's like being like a kid in a candy store. The Gemaras that we have this week are just so beautifully overwhelming, magnificent, and meaningful. So the Gemara records a conversation. This is on Sadik Aleph Beis 91b between Antoninus, who was a Caesar, and Rabbi Meir. And Antoninus asked Rabbi Meir the following question. He says, Mipnei ma chama yotze b'mizrach v'shokas b'marav. Why does the sun rise in the east and set in the west? And there's a little bit of a conversation. Well, Antoninus then fine-tuned his question. He said, no, explain to me, why does the sun have to go all the way from the east to the west? In other words, so Rabbi Meir then says to him, because the Shekhinah is situated in the west, without getting into all the details, and therefore the sun rises, and when it sets, it bows down before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Antonina says, that's beautiful, but why not have the sun go midway, like to midway in the sky, and set there? That way it's facing the west, and set right there. Let it set, so to speak, like in the midday position. Why does it have to go all the way to the west? And Rabbi Meir answers something so beautiful. He says, Mishum polim umishum ovrei drachim, because of workers and travelers. And Rashi points out over here, what does that mean? So Rashi points out that if the sun were to set in the midday position, even if it were to stay that way for a while and then just suddenly set, so workers would have no idea how much time they have left in their day to accomplish. And travelers would have no idea how much time they have in order to go ahead and reach their destination. This way, the sun has a gradual setting, and therefore everybody knows that the day is winding down. The workers know it, the laborers know it, the travelers know it. Beautiful. Do you understand the profundity of this Gemara? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu value most? What does he value most? What he values most is work, is the polim. What he values most is the travelers, people who want to get themselves from point A to point B. And he made sure to arrange the sun in such a way that you and I can maximize our day. Because if the sun would just sit kind of in that midday position and then suddenly it'll set, I have no warning. I don't know, I got to prioritize. There's so much I have to do, there's so much I have to travel. Kadosh Baruch Hu literally made the sun set in such a way that it rises in the east, sets in the west, a gradual set, so that you and I should know how much time we have to work, how many more hours we have of daylight to put in effort, how much time we have to travel to get ourselves from point A to point B, because what HaKadosh Baruch Hu values more than anything in this world is the work, is the effort, is Vayakhel. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu values more than anything in this world is the effort, is the process of getting ourselves from point A to point B. The Torah goes into such incredible detail in Parashas Vayakhel because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to tell us it's not the results that I'm focused on, but it's the effort. Put in the effort. Do day after day. Put in the effort. You know, so often we are results oriented, which on one hand is really beautiful, and one hand really incredible. But what happens in life, and this happens all the time, where I put in the effort and the results that I wanted don't materialize. So a lot of times you look at that as just an abysmal fail. And sometimes it is, look, I guess it won't work in your office. Because, I tried really hard, but I couldn't get the job done. Okay, that's nice, but if you don't get the job done, I don't know how long you're gonna have a job for. Right? That's just the way that life works. But in the realm of Ruchnius, the realm of our relationship with Chadash Baruch Hu, it happens so often. I put in effort, and then you know what? I don't know. I don't change. I don't become the person I wanted to be. I don't move my life forward. And so often we think to ourselves, it failed. It's a fail. However, it's not true. Success is not in results. Success is to be found in effort. And when the Ribono Shel Olam sees that each and every day I'm trying, that each and every day I'm plugging away, that each and every day I'm showing up. Some days I'm showing up inspired, some days I'm showing up uninspired, some days I'm giving it 100%, and some days maybe I'm only giving it 70%. But I'm trying. There's effort. That's the Chadash Baruch Hu says, perfect. Can we put in more effort? Of course. Are there results that we control? Of course. But at the end of the day, when you look at a metric of what is a successful life, a successful life is one where one could look back and say, you know what? Every day I tried. Every day I tried. Some days I tried and I succeeded. And some days I tried and I failed. And other days I tried and I failed abysmally. And other days and I tried, I succeeded moderately. But every day I tried. And as long as we can say that about life, then that is a life well lived. The Ribono Shel Olam puts an entire extra portion, an entire extra parsha in the Torah, the parsha of Vayakhel, with virtually no new information. Why? Because it's all about trying. It's all about effort. It's all about investment. And Chadash Baruch Hu whispers in our ear, don't worry, I'll help with the results. But what I ask you is just to make every day a beautiful day of holy effort. Wishing everyone a good Erev Shabbos and a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh.